Of domestic violence around the world, especially in our African homes, is on the increase as more and more people are being deleted every day around the world. Hi guys, welcome to Production with Julie on Julie TV. It's your girl Julie. How are you guys doing? Today I'm here to discuss another issue with my friend Mrs. Osuji. We want to talk on domestic violence and how it affects, especially the women. Hi Mrs. Osuji, how are you doing?
Hi, Julie. I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, we're going to begin this story. I want to go straight to the incident that happened a few days ago concerning the Orlando pastor. If you remember the Orlando pastor, Mr. Sylvester Ofori, who untimely deleted his wife from the surface of the earth, and a video subsequently surfaced on the internet on what led, according to that there were issues on domestic violence. So now let's start this discussion by asking.
Domestic violence. Domestic violence is also family violence. Is basically abuse that is done in a domestic setting. It can be in a marriage, it can be in a relationship. So these are domestic violence is a crime that is committed by a spouse or a partner against the spouse or partner. So once we get that definition right, domestic that what it starts from home. So once that is out of the way, the signs of what causes domestic violence will not be our next line of definition or how to talk about it. That is, what causes that? Why will a man all of a sudden that proclaims to love the wife decides to just be abusive to water? Why is that? What has been done that will now warrant the man beating her up, putting her down, and in most cases, kill and then kill her, like you rightly said.
So now let's look at forms of domestic violence, because you have been able to put it out there that both the male and the female can be abused in any marriage, right?
Yes.
In any marriage, both the male and the female can be abused, even the children.
Okay, it comes in form of physical, but believe you me, it starts more with verbal abuse. From verbal abuse, we gradually get to the partner being physical, beating, choking, trying all he or she can to. In this case, I'm just going to kind of limit our conversation to the man as the abuser and the female as the receiver of that abuse.
Yeah.
So in most cases, you see men that verbally or physically abuse their wife for some reason. Maybe the wife is doing better financially, so the man feels threatened that his worth is sort of being diminished. How does this start? Verbal, physical, emotional, So in some cases,
if I may come in there, I feel sometimes if the line of preference that it comes in first as emotional. Mm-hmm. For me, I feel it comes in first as emotional. They start off by emotionally abusing you, then it goes to the verbal one, the one you just said. You are being verbally abused. Then it now metamorphoses to physical abuse. Even though there are other forms like the financial abuse, like you just said, it's another form of which the abuser uses to his victim. Sorry, we're going to use women as the victim here, because in most cases women are women are the vulnerable one. They are more or less like the victim at the end of the day. We are not saying that men are not being abused in any relationship. Of course, yes, they do. But in most cases, women. What are the effects of domestic violence children on women?
On women, it's just more of the self-worth. It's just to take the image. They feel so little about themselves, and if kids are involved, kids are also vulnerable as well. So because they are not living in a loving environment, that of course
conducive environment.
That also affects the woman that is being abused, because she looks at herself as if she does not have any worth. You understand? And then she looks at herself, especially for those that are doing the right thing, but it's just more like she's helpless, she's like voiceless, she can't say anything about herself, she's embarrassed, she's ashamed. It's something of a stigma to them, and that is why they don't speak out. They are in that marriage marriage until at the end they are being done away with. You know,
but why is it that most women that are in an abusive marriage, why is it that they tend to still stick into that, they tend to stay in that marriage until, you know, it get worse, until they are deleted? I continue using the word deleted until they are deleted. Is it that they don't have the mindset, or they don't have the willpower to let go? At what point should women who are in an abusive marriage, at what point can they say it's time to walk away?
You know, again, this mostly has to do with culture. For some people, maybe in Africa or in Asia, they all tend to say they just want to stick it out. They are almost like they don't want to be the ones that will say, okay, my marriage is broken down. They don't want to be like, oh, it's divorcee, you know. So again, in this
the stigma
country, most people, they tend to leave, you know. But then again, for those that don't leave, it's not something that is in them that kind of tells them that they're going to change this individual. You understand that okay, maybe kids are involved. They just don't want their kids to be like, okay, they are now in a broken home, so they are holding on to that hope, which I'm saying in this case is totally hopeless. You know,
yeah.
they kept holding on. They were like, he will change. Oh, I know this man. He loves me. He's doing this out of anger. You know, so but if like usually possessive and jealous, they are the ones that go out of their way to eventually delete their spouses. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's again anger. You know, if you are married to a man that is hot-tempered, that kind of threatens you openly, that will tell you, I will do away with you, I will delete you. Believe him the first time he says that. Because
but Miss Osuji, sorry to cut you. Miss Osuji, sorry to cut you. I want to take us back to the beginning, when during their courtship. I still believe that this behavior or attitude has been in that man or woman. There would have been an element of or sign that shows that this person is an abuser. You understand? It would have been there. You would have seen it. But most people, most women, they kind of look away from it, or they kind of don't take into perspective that this could be an actual character of that individual. Yeah, because I don't think it just pumps up in the marriage. I feel even during courtship they know, you feel it, but you just feel that the person is going to change.
Yes.
Most mistake that people do is that you marry somebody to change the person, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that way. You can't marry somebody and with the hope you're going to change. Like I said in one of my videos, you can't marry a 35 years old person who has built a character for over 35 years and you're hoping to change the person in just 5 years or 10 years for a character of 35 years, 40 years. So that sign had been there. You would have seen it. You had time to walk away from the beginning. Don't even wait. For me, don't wait until you get into that marriage for you to say, no, this is not the right person for me. Because you cannot change it. The stigma, like you said, is one of the things that keep women in an abusive marriage. The stigma, especially for African women. My biggest, the worst of it is not even, like you said, America and Europe, they know what to do. But most cases, the African women, that's where the problem is. That stigma of what will people say, what will my relatives say, what will this say, that's what keeps them until they are deleted from that marriage. Yeah. Which is a big problem. I am not a preacher of divorce, But when the marriage becomes toxic, becomes very highly abusive, walk away alive. Now let's look at our pastor from Orlando, the Mr. Sylvester Ofori, the Ghana case, for instance. You saw the video that later pumped up, that was later uploaded on YouTube.
Yes, I did.
Of his threat, of his, of his threat and persistent, abuse on that woman. Now I have my questions. One is, if you watch that video very well, you'll find out that the wife, even with the abuse she was receiving, she was still willing to protect the guy. Right? Did you hear when she told the brother to stop hitting the guy?
Yes,
even when he threatened to delete the woman, and the brother said, "Please call the police," and she refused.
Yeah.
Which is still that African mentality, African, this Africans' willingness to stay in an abusive marriage, especially when you made the threat. What happened to calling the cops? What happened to at least report? Because if he was reported from the beginning, I don't think he would have gone ahead, to carry out his threats.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah. Yes.
Now she's a dead person and he's alive. You understand?
No.
And the story. Look at her. The story allegedly started with, when African men living in diaspora go back home. They go back home and pick a wife and come over here, and they want to still have that control. They still want to carry that African mentality. I am the boss, and you want to carry it to a foreign land. Don't forget, there's this saying that said, if you go to Rome, you behave like the Romans, right?
Yeah.
So why is it that another question I will ask is that, why is it that when African men want to marry, they desire to go back home and marry, and they bring that wife, and they still want to use what I would call the iron hand on the same woman they went back home to get, and they forget that there's a law covering her here in the Western world? Why is it so?
Because I've actually seen a couple of men go back home, just a wife, they bring the person over here. The truth of the issue is that the person they are even bringing in as their wife, they don't even know that person.
Right.
And because he's in America,
Obodoibo.
yeah, everybody is now looking for greener pastures.
Right.
And when the lady comes, they put that girl go to nothing. She goes to nothing school. She comes out as a nurse, and then she's earning good money. They say their standards, and then the man himself would not want to do anything in most cases. They just want to be like, okay, give me your paycheck, and to be man and
Financial abuse.
Now in charge, right?
Yeah.
So then that girl will now go and so because at the end of the day, you don't have to have the circle of friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this girl that also has been or person taking her money from her might tell a friend, and the girl, you might be like, hell no, this is America, no, and that of course gets to the new wife head now, and when the guy is talking, she is fighting for her God-given right, and that is where all of this now escalates, and the threats come, and they have been, and for some reason this tends to happen mostly to nothing. So I was even surprised that the so-called pastor's wife, she
wasn't a nurse,
right?
She wasn't a nurse.
Because this has been going on in this country.
Yeah.
Most of the women, believe that just nothing, because they'll be like, oh yeah, I got this, into this country, and now she house, she can do this, and she can do all of that. But they forgetting that this is the United States of America, where they have laws in most cases that actually work. And in this case, it works in favor of the women. Right now, it does not work. You have to cut somebody. You have to know who you are getting married to.
Yes.
You understand? So for me, the idea of a dude going back home, to go get a wife, help.
And you know, in most cases, those marriages don't work. It don't work out. I've seen several of them. It don't work out. It don't. Especially, you know, do you know? Let me give you an instance. You see a guy over here, a man over here, whose job is, let's say, security, for instance, and you go back home to pick a lady who is a nurse, and she comes here, upgrade, you know, in her profession, becomes a nurse. You are a security, earning less money, and here she is, gone back to school or wrote the state board, passed the exam, and she's earning higher than you, and you still feel that. I'm not saying being submissive is a problem. Is wrong for a woman to be submissive. It is not wrong for a woman to be submissive. But where the problem comes in is when you start. This is in this country. I'm still gonna have a video on that. In this country, the system here works differently. You've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Back home, my husband will not do laundry. He will not cook. You understand? He will not even clean. There's a whole lot that men will not do back home. But once you're here in the so-called abroad, it's equal right too, because we both go to work. We both struggle. It's the same struggle for both of you. So there are things that you will not do as a man back home, that when you come here in the so-called abroad, you will have to do it. And if you're a very controlling man, a man who likes to intimidate, it becomes an insult to him. And if he can't take it no more, he becomes abusive. Looking at the woman to be disrespectful. Excuse me, if a woman works for 12 hours, 4-5 days a week, 12 hours, 12 solid hours, and you still want her to come back and still repeat domestic work the way it should be done, it's not possible. She's merely a human being. That's why you see some people come back home, they slump and die. Because they are trying to pay the bill. With his security money, probably it would not be enough to take care of the home and the children. So the woman had to work extra to support. And you still want her to come back home and do all that. There is nothing wrong in her coming back to do her marital duties, right? But it becomes a problem when you make it a point of duty that she had to come back and dish your food for you, have to come back after 12 hours shift to work. It becomes a problem.
It's a problem. Just like that, because they don't know themselves. I've been married myself now for 15 years. My husband, he goes into the kitchen. He helps me with the laundry. He helps me with the house. Maybe when I'm busy with the girls. But there is that understanding.
Yeah.
He prepares, soup for rice. He does that. I do the soup for and all of that,
Right.
So he does that, and he does not see it as an insult to him or an insult to his manhood for whatever that is. You understand?
Yes.
Because they have to be understanding, and you can cohabit happily if you are married to your friend. If you know
that's what works for you. That's what works for you.
That's what works for me. You understand? So we do things, we kill ourselves, we laugh. Everybody, of course, sometimes I'm also like this. He is also like this. But we come out, we discuss about it. You can have that meaningful conversation when you are married to your friend, when you know the person
exactly.
you are married to. But when you go back home and pick a total stranger, if you bring the person in here, you are sort of thinking it's going to work that way. No, because she just told you and you don't know her. And that's the root of that misunderstanding that brings this. Because I see the guy telling the female, yeah, I brought you home from your deadbeat village. If not for me, you will not be here. But she also forgot that yes, you brought her in, but she also decided to make better of herself.
Of course.
She just sit back and give figures and just not do anything. Then life will still be hard. You will still not be happy. So think that you think that she's maybe the one bringing most of the because all you are bacon or rather all you have to do is just not like choosing yourself, have a dialogue with your wife and see how you people can better your family for your happiness.
So Miss Osuji,
if you are tired, just go. You know, if you are tired of a marriage, of any relationship, you walk away.
Walk away. That was going to be my last question, because we really need to emphasize. We really need to emphasize my last conversation with you now. We really need to emphasize. Listen, we are not preaching divorce. But now, Ms. Osuji, I have a last question for you. What will you tell your daughter? She is in an abusive marriage. When I mean abusive, highly abusive marriage that is life-threatening. What will you tell your daughter?
Again, but I will tell her that God forbid, I pray to they are not in this kind of situation.
Yes.
But what the advice I will give to a girl, a lady that is in an abusive relationship is just basically to walk away. But if you now start putting your hand on you, will slap you, threaten you.
At that point, you need to get out.
No.
At that point, you need to get out. Because it is better for me, Miss Osuji, let me be frank with you. I would prefer my daughter coming back to me alive than coming back to me in a coffin. I would prefer that. So I would.
All mothers do.
Yeah, because I feel the parents are not sending the message right, especially African parents. I'm not trying to be, how will I call it, Americanized. I'm not trying to be that, but I'm trying to save life. If you're in an abusive marriage, when I mean abusive, you are. I want to take out a little the verbal one out of it. The verbal one, you could say, okay, let me keep talking to the person, let me keep praying. As a Christian, I'll keep. You have done all your best. You have prayed. You have fasted.
You remember when I said if you get physical?
Yes.
That is when you have to start.
I want to let our viewers now know at the point which they have to leave, because so that they don't get the message wrong. We are not preaching divorce, but what we are saying is that if it's verbal, you will probably say, okay, let me call. Even though I don't like third parties in marriage, but at a point you have to. If he's a religious person, you call somebody that he respects and let the person talk to him. If he has somebody he respects, talk to the person. At that point, he's still at the verbal stage. If it becomes emotional, that kills faster. That's when you will see women go into depression, because it is already the Western world is already depressing itself. If you don't know how to control what goes on in this society, you will live a depressed life. You understand? So if it becomes emotional torture, and you have prayed, you have done all your best, you have what his complaints, you have tried to work on it, and it's not working, then when it becomes physical, first slap, second slap, that second slap is for me. I won't even take it. But if it will become the serious beating, my dear, walk away. Walk away. Because if this lady had taken the advice of her brother from the onset, I don't think she would have been a deleted person now. now there'll be a lot of regrets. The brother would have, I'm just wondering what is in their mind. If I would have done that, I could have done that, I would have bundled him to the police. There'll be a lot of regret now. But the dead person has nothing to say. The dead person is dead and gone, and he's alive. If peradventure they said he has a mental problem, which most likely, because I don't see anybody who will go to that length in a right mind. You understand? You know, mental problem is real. Mental problem is real. It's just that we Africans don't believe that there are mental issues. If he's here abroad, you know, I'm sorry, if he's here, you'll be taken to a to go and see a psychiatrist. Not because you're a mad person, but for you to be, you know, examined. But because we are Africans, we don't believe in stuff like that. We believe in, you know, pray out. Is your winch, go and pray. You are this, you pray. So I believe that's why he was not even taken. Nobody considered that aspect of him. Because I don't see any person in a rightful mind in the United States that would issue threat knowing what it means to tell somebody I will kill you in America.
Okay.
Sure.
They're not saying that he's crazy or what.
No, I'm trying to be a little bit of the judge here, because you know at the end of the day they might say the guy has mental issue, and if it's found out that he has mental issue, he's
exactly based on the tapes that I saw and those to YouTube, based on what the police people were saying. He planned it, because I think he
planned it.
Waiting for the wife to come to her place of work and eat the beggar. So no. Insanity is
so you're saying that you are not seeing a situation. You're saying that you're not seeing a situation whereby, you know, during his judgment you will hear something, because I've seen it here, and they will say the guy has mental issue. Then he's and we hope so. We hope so.
He said he's going to believe her that if he does not, then he is sick. Those were his words. So there is no way insanity plea is going to work in this case. They are going
we
to
hope so. Because you and I don't know if he has a mental issue, and if he does, he will not even tell his wife. So if the doctor comes up tomorrow and say, oh, he came to the hospital and we found out that he had mental issues, his case will be minimal. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, he might not even face
into the mental hospital then. He knows. He was planning that from day one. I am not a lawyer yet, but this intensity is not going to work for him.
I really hope so too. I really hope so too. Because that's look at the life of a young promising lady just wasted, all in the name of, you know, being somebody's wife or being a pastor's wife. I don't want to bring the pastors in here, because this is not it's not just a pastor issue, but even though that played a lot, you know,
a real man of God who not forgiving. He is fake. He is a fake actor. He is just the devil. Because and they were just separated for 3 months. So that's if they were separated forever.
He probably will be. He's probably angry. You know the way. You know the way it goes here. You know the way it goes here. Once you are going through a divorce, you are going to lose a lot as a man. So you know that will aggravate his anger.
All of this perfectly well.
Exactly. It's like, if I'm going to lose everything, then you're going to go.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Based on this pastor, airport pastor, if he's actually a man of God, he should have committed everything into God's hands, praying, fasting. He's supposed to be the person that...
Did you hear where he said that the other pastors told him that the wife is a witch? You didn't hear that part of it. So he pre-planned everything. So on a final note, guys, what we are saying is, please, if you're in an abusive marriage, I've said it the first time, I've said it the second time. This is actually my third video on abuse on women. I'm not saying that men are not being abused in marriage. Of course they do, but most cases women.
Of the accusers are like men.
Exactly.
And you don't understand, it's overwhelmingly high.
Yes.
The when you now see this leak, there was also an incident that happened not only in Nigeria. This lady is the pharmacist, and her husband was a very wicked at physically, like any weak way, hitting her. This poor lady was pregnant, 52 black girl, was pregnant, in 8 months pregnant or so. And the husband was hitting her, and she had to go to her parents and so say she's gone. She can't. Her mom said, no, go back to him. He's your husband, nothing, this one, this, that. She went back, okay. She came back in the coffin with her child, with her unborn child by her side. So this idiot, the wife, and look up like a baby girl. So when somebody keeps hitting you, they don't even hit, you know, like all these bits of body like camel and horses, they don't even hit them just like that. Even me, when I see how those animals are being tortured, I feel bad. Not to talk of my fellow human beings.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a fellow human being, we let these men delete them for no reason. So my final word of advice to anybody, any female, any male that is living in an abusive relationship, get your bag, walk away. It's okay to be single for some time. You understand?
And be alive.
Couples up, because at the end of the day, what is the use of you being a couple and you die?
Exactly.
You are being deleted.
Exactly.
You understand? So,
Yeah.
so please.
It is okay. We repeat, it is okay for you to walk away. Forget about the stigma. Because the same people that will stigmatize you will also come during your burial, and they will drink and eat so well. So why don't you just walk away? If the signs are there, if you are the receiving end, you know how the beating is. You feel it. The threat is there. If you are being threatened, again, is threat. If you are being threatened, don't take it lightly. Don't take it lightly, because it only takes a living person to be able to tell the story. She's gone. Who is going to tell her story?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And life-taking can never, ever, ever, will ever be replaced. So if you are in an abusive marriage, please, it's good for you to live while you are alive.
Yes.
It's better for you to live while you're alive. That is it for today's show. I am Jolie. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share. I want to say thank you to my guest today, Mrs. Osuji. Thank you so much for being with me one more time, for giving me your time. Thank you. God bless you. Bye.
Bye.